Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar series of the FTTH Council Europe. My name is Vincent Garnier. I am the Director General of the Council, and I will be moderating this webinar. Today's session is titled, How Visual Automation Helps Build and Maintain a World-Class Full Fiber Network. And it is sponsored by Deepomatic and CityFibre, two member companies of the FTTH Council Europe. Now, I will start with some words about our organization. We are a non-for-profit association with the mission to promote full fiber network as the most sustainable and future-proof broadband technology. We regroup 150 members throughout Europe, and among our key activities is the organization of the annual FTTH conference, the next one taking place on May 23rd, 25th in Vienna, Austria. You will find more information on our website. This session is part of a series of webinars we are organizing on a regular basis to provide our audience with insightful content from leading industry experts. The replay of all past webinars is accessible via our website for free. Now, some practical information before we effectively start the session. We will record the webinar, and a link to the replay will be sent to all registrants after the event. The audience is muted, but you can send us your questions using the question chat box on the platform. We will do our best to address them with our speakers in the second part of the webinar. Now, let me introduce you to the subject of this session. As you know, full fiber networks are today accessible to 50% of the population in Europe, and the rollout of fiber networks is accelerating. It has been the case in France, where Deepomatic is headquartered, and more recently in the UK, where CityFibre operates. We are no longer lacking funding, nor entrepreneurs or political ambitions. However, one of the most important challenges today is the quality of the network we built and the way we can maintain them efficiently to ensure that subscribers benefit from the full value of fiber technology. So this webinar focuses on this issue, starting with an overview of the fiber deployment in France and in the UK. Our speakers will explain the benefits of visual automation for telecom application. They will look at the data-led service model developed by CityFibre and its application on a specific use case. We will then address your questions, so do not hesitate to type them in the dedicated section of the platform. Our speakers today are first Augustin MARTY, CEO of Deepomatic. Good afternoon, Augustin. Augustin spent 4 years in a large-scale civil engineering and infrastructure project working for Vinci Energy. In 2014, he co-founded Deepomatic with 2 associates in order to help businesses leverage artificial intelligence and more specifically visual automation to gain in operational efficiency. Deepomatic is a leading visual automation provider, which allows field service companies to lower the cost of quality and compliance and to streamline their physical world operations. Deepomatic solutions help FTTH network operators connect subscribers more reliably, lower the cost of compliance, improve quality of experience, and drive long-term infrastructure return on investment. And with us today is also our second speaker, David TOMALIN. Having worked with well-known and good afternoon, David, sorry. Having worked with well-known vendor and network provider organization for over 25 years, David is now CityFibre's Group Chief Technology Officer, with a mission to deliver a world-class digital infrastructure platform for the UK. In his role, David is responsible for the selection and evolution of all powered network technology assets, as well as all artificial intelligence-driven working practices and new implementation. And CityFibre, maybe there's no need to introduce the company to our audience, but CityFibre was founded in 2011 to build a new generation of full fiber infrastructure for the UK in direct challenge to UK incumbent operators, one of the very first altnet in the UK. With its first 1 million home milestone passed at the end of last year, and having recently completed the largest ever capital raise for UK full fiber deployment, CityFibre £5 billion rollout program is on track to serve 8 million premises by, I think, David, 2025, which would represent roughly 30% of UK market. So I'm very happy to have David and Augustin presenting the webinar today. Both CityFibre and Deepomatic are active members of the FTTH Council Europe. So with that, I give the floor to Augustin for the first part of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Vincent, and welcome everyone to this webinar. So I think a bit of history and context is quite important to understand how images became not only mandatory in field operations in France, in the telecom industry, but also a primary source of information, a primary resource to drive field operations and to manage physical infrastructure. So back in 2013, France started the very high speed plan with a target of covering 100% of houses, businesses, and small offices with fiber optical to pass 100% of homes by 2025. And as per today, more than 30 million homes are passed out of 40 million, so 75% of the homes are passed. And historically, the local authority called ARCEP decided that to make it simple, we would work under a shared infrastructure model, and the two kind of organizations were responsible for the network deployment. The wholesaler would be responsible for the deployment of the network up to the secondary node, to make it simple. And the ISP would be responsible to deploy the network from the secondary node up to the faceplate, the optical termination point inside the living room of the house. It's quite important to notice that today, even though we have deployed and passed 75% of the homes, only 13 million of homes are actually connected to the network. And so you have two, the ISP and the wholesaler are involved in the deployment of the network for a single household. Both of them, they have a network of subcontractors, and subcontractors have several subcontractors. So in the finally, a lot of companies are working on the same network, and definitely the primary performance indicator that was followed by all the companies was we need to deploy quickly the network. And as a consequence, an obvious consequence, quality was left behind. Also, what was very difficult is to rely on manual reporting from all the subcontractors of subcontractors to update the IT systems with an accurate status of what do we have on the field. And actually the consequences of that were quite a problem, because the network degraded very rapidly. And finally, very important operational issues appeared. And for example, a few months ago, 30% of home connections were failing. And the quality of the network was so low that a lot of customers are suffering from Wi-Fi interruption and poor connection quality. It became a scandal, The national press started to write a lot about the poor network we were deploying, and suddenly it became extremely important to work on the quality problems. And very recently, a year or 2 years ago, our authority, the ARCEP, wanted to bring transparency on the process, and it became mandatory to take pictures, to take photos of everything in order to understand the responsibilities and balance the maintenance cost in case of damages or repair that is needed. Obviously, it was impossible to analyze that huge quantity of information. We are talking here about millions and millions and probably billions of pictures coming from the field. And the artificial intelligence technologies became quite an obvious solution to analyze all those pictures in order to allow the understanding of what's happening on the field, to understand the responsibilities in the network degradation, and in order to update the IT systems, but we're going to talk about that a little bit more later on. Maybe David, would you like to give us a short overview of what's happening in the UK in comparison?
Yeah, the UK market is slightly different. Inherently, the UK market is a mix of both open access wholesale players of many sizes. We've got vertically integrated service providers who have their own infrastructure networks. We have got a plethora of service providers who leverage lots of different open access providers. And to put it into scale, we currently believe there's over 70 alternate network infrastructure providers, of which the majority are vertically integrated and may well become open access as well. And what that breeds is everyone has their own plans, their own methods of doing things. It supports a diverse range of construction and build companies, lots of telecoms, install commissioning, specialist managed services companies. Into that mix, in particular over the last 5 years, we've got a growth in regulated products, leveraging people like OpenReach, duct and pole access. So whereas we started off building our own network, and so many alternate carriers did, we can now leverage shared assets. We also see material changes, supply chain costs impacting the business, so we change designs. So there's lots of evolution, there's lots of inputs and outputs to that, and it's changing. And it's up to us as an industry to weave those elements together so that we don't repeat the problems of the past with undocumented infrastructure, incorrect data in regards to customers' configurations and service change. And your point about maintenance is key to all, whether it's vertically integrated, open access, or shared network as much as you get in France. We have to get hold of the data as an industry so that we can maintain records. So that is a key part we see starting to develop. Why? Because all of it leads to customer experience. And one of the things that we've all seen over the last 2 years coming through all of our communities is broadband access, fibre access to the home means that we can prepare for anything and we can enable for any eventuality, but it's got to be reliable, it's got to be scalable, it's got to be maintainable, and from an install perspective, it's got to be right first time. So those are the passion that we're starting to see come through the UK market, predominantly in the alternate carrier space.
Augustin, you're on mute.
Thank you very much. So thank you, David, for that quick overview of the specificities of the UK market. And now a few words about visual automation. And basically, visual automation is meant to answer this very simple question. Because what we have noticed and what I have noticed as when I was working in field operations and what we see today in field operation, it's that even though you have manual reporting tools that are available in smartphones, pretty much if you consider today operation, what's happening on the field today, this Tuesday, we are blind. It's the darkness. And you can see visual automation as the bulb shedding the lights on the daily operations that are happening right now at scale. How does it work? We are using, and we as an industry, you can use artificial intelligence and especially image recognition to automatically analyze all the pictures that are captured during 100% of the field interventions. And that allowing to provide a complete and objective view of what's happening every day in the field in real time. So who are the users of field automation? First, the field engineer. The field engineer is using its mobile phone while working on one work order or intervention and to take picture of what's happening, of the different equipments that will be involved that are involved in the intervention. So most of the often the equipments are they take pictures before and after the work of each equipment, and we can use visual automation, image recognition in order to analyze what has happened on this equipment. Then a lot of tasks are checked to make sure that the job was done accordingly to the work order and also accordingly to the national quality standards. For one intervention, you might have a lot of different equipments that are touched by the technician. And for example, you might have a primary node, street cabinet, Toby box, secondary node, up to the faceplate inside the home of the customer. So for one intervention, it's possible to take several pictures of several equipments that are involved in the intervention. Everything is analyzed. In one picture, you can analyze several things. And for example, let's say that you need a picture of the photometer in order to validate the speed of the internet, the light speed. Then, if it's not present, the task is not completed. The work order is not validated until everything is considered as correct, given the image recognition. Then all those interventions are gathered into one centralized software and made accessible for the quality teams and the network management teams. You can dive into your operation by searching some equipments, some assets, or searching some specific interventions through IDEA, looking in the last one, the failed one. So it's very convenient to navigate inside your operations and help your team in real time on the field. And the second thing is that you can also use all those information to get an helicopter view of what's happening. So for example, you can follow KPIs at scale about the quality of the network, about the percentage of OK interventions, the percentage of interventions that are done right the first time. You can compare it by subcontractor. And so it's very convenient to understand where do we need to concentrate to train the people on the ground, to bring some support, and it's definitely a convenient source of information to find in the inefficiency and to understand the root cause of failure. So back to the technician. How does it work? They have their mobile phone in the hand, and to make it very clear for the entire audience of how does it work, we can follow what would happen in the hand of the field technician or field engineer. So this is a central office cabinet of CityFibre, and here the task is to validate what happens in this cassette. And so the first thing that is analyzed, it is that indeed we have a picture that is a good picture of the cassette. And if the picture was blurred, if it's a picture of the feet of the field engineer, or even if it was a picture that is already inside the information system because it was taken in the past, we are able to detect that automatically, and we would kindly ask to the field engineer to take a relevant and a picture that is allowing visual automation to analyze all the different type of control points. So then when you have a good picture, you can notice that you have 5 cables, and that's normal. It was like that in the work order, and that you have the cover on the cassette, so the cassette is protected from anything else in the environment. And then something wrong is that 2 protection caps are missing. So you can see that in the red little box here. And because of that, the intervention is not perfect. You might accept that intervention at this stage, or you might refuse it. And if you accept it, obviously, at least you have a very precise information in your IT system explaining that in the 4th cassette, we need to bring some spare in order to protect the plugs. So that's an example of what would happen and how would work image recognition to analyze a specific moment during the intervention. And the use cases, you need to imagine what would happen at scale. So doing that on 100% of your intervention, you can automate the quality control, which means that quality control is not anymore done by teams that are driving throughout the country, but it's done in real time, and it's in the hand of the technician. So obviously, if something wrong happens, then an alert is raised automatically in real time, and the field engineer can fix the job immediately. That's very important because it will allow the field engineer not to come back the next day, not to drive 10, 20, 30 kilometers or miles to come back to the field and fix what was done wrong. So the fact that image recognition can analyze all the pictures in real time and provide a feedback to the technician, bring some productivity and increase the pace of the rollout. And obviously, you can work and you can control 100% of the work orders of the interventions. And you can scale your quality audits to the 100% of your operations. When you do that, you can start to automate some process. That's very important because it's what brings the return on investment. It's part of the return on investment calculation. So, for example, Swisscom is a company who has already deployed visual automation in its field operations to accept the connection between the building and the primary node. And before that, a dedicated team with more than 100 people was in charge of driving throughout the country and checking that the intervention was done accordingly to the work order, respecting all the quality standards, and triggering the payment of the subcontractor. So when you are analyzing the interventions, you can also automate some processes. Obviously, it saves some workforce costs, but it also accelerates the overall process, and you can roll out the network in a more efficient way. And last but not least, something very interesting is the asset observability. So if you are analyzing 100% of your intervention, it means that for every single equipment that you have on the field, every time a field technician is coming to this equipment to do a deployment or a maintenance job, they will take picture before and after the job. And you have an ever updated view of your equipments. And because you do it on 100% of your equipments, you have built a digital twin of your network that is already and always up to date, always reflecting the reality of what you can expect on the field. Obviously, this is very interesting to optimize your work orders, because when you know what to expect, when you know that you will work in a high space and you need some equipment to go high, or when you know that you have a very thick wall to drill through, you are going to take the right tools. And you are going to forecast the right time that you need to work on those specific type of equipment. And finally, with the pictures, you can follow day after day the status of every single equipment, such as a street cabinet. And definitely, if you see that something is getting damaged, maybe because just of the time going on, you can plan some corrective light maintenance to maintain your equipments in a perfect shape for all the years over years. That's all for me, and maybe.
Well, thank you, Augustin. Don't run away. There will certainly be questions for you. I can already see one or two coming in the box. I take that opportunity to invite everyone in the audience to drop question in the question box. They will be addressed by David and Augustin right after. And now, David, if you want to share your perspective about how CityFibre implements those tools for your own interest.
Yeah, so let's talk about the vision first of all, because the vision empowers our business. CityFibre we've built on our vision. It's a vision to create the better future for the UK. It's about unleashing the potential of fibre. And in doing so, we wanted always to set new benchmarks for customer experience by building, developing, and implementing systems, the processes, the tools, and really, most importantly, the culture about data-led excellence. So this means we have to build a world-class full fibre network, the full fibre digital infrastructure, the platforms that support it. And we can only achieve these sort of things by working with others as partners, be they solution providers for example, equipment, manufacturers, our customers, and choosing those partners who help us build for the needs of tomorrow is absolutely key. It's into everything we do. It's about co-creating success. It's about listening. It's about learning. It's about putting the end customer experience, this person sitting in their home and relying on us to give them the service they need to run their lives. It's got to be front and center, and we never, and we must never accept the status quo that is good enough. So let's go back to first steps. We build the network around something called a well-planned city design. It's tried, it's tested. It was unique to CityFibre when it started. And we design these networks to serve all the major markets. So it's quite a complex fibre network. It has different endpoints, different start points, it's a ring-based, multi-ducted network. And data drives it. the architecture, how we do the GIS planning, all of those things build a prospective model of how you're building the network. And we plan it twice and we dig once is the plan. And in our early years, we built the network predominantly to serve things like the public sector networks, but we always had the concept that we would expand it outwards to service residential and further business and mobile as those markets evolve. In that journey, it's always been key that we had access to accurate data, knowing where your ducts are, knowing where your fibre are. There's a lot of manual work. And each one of our fibre exchanges addresses around 50,000 prems. And at the moment, we're just turning up around about, I think we're on the 100th fibre exchange. We should have about another 50 odd fibre exchange turning up this year. So roughly one every week we're turning up. So there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of data, a lot of physical infrastructure. And that's why we look for innovation, and we look for innovative partners who have the same passion about where data can take us. It's not just the recording of data, but it's how we use that to improve the way we work and the experience we enable for our customers. Now, customer experience, it's got to be world class. And to do that, we have to have a deep belief in operational excellence. We have to question ourselves on a daily basis. Are we doing the best we can do? How do we get to the next stage of experience? What is the plan for the next 1, 2, 5, 10 years of development as a business? It's about ambition. It's not just about the fibre in the ground. It's not just about the rollout numbers that companies announce on a regular basis. But we know that everything we do has to be better because it's the way it's designed. Now, the way we think as a team, how we embrace opportunity underpins that. We find solutions. We continually have to use the data, the information coming back to us about how we're building the network, be it from our customers, be it from our partners, and be it from our manufacturers and our active equipment layers, by the intelligence we're getting. It gives us insights. And all of that is tied into providing friction-free services. We've got to bring together the meticulously planned and built infrastructure. We've got to deploy ultra-robust services and systems. We have to innovate through high-quality geospatial systems, deploying performance data feeds into our intelligence engines, purpose-built systems for the needs of the operator for the future, but also enabling smart automation. And we're constantly on this search for these applications that enable us to weave intelligence into these data lakes, into these feedback loops, to give us insights and enable us to drive automation. So this is all through data-led operations. Now, one thing that we've thought about for the last 4 years in particular is about how do we plan that journey. We have different parts of our business. I've already talked about the fact we have mobile, residential, we have business services. And we have to move from a reactive, manual-based environment, driven predominantly because, you know what, we were doubling in size every year for the last 5 years. But we've got to move out of that phase. We need to drive more automation in our workflows, in our service order journeys, to drive quality, drive service experience. We've got to remove the challenge of the manual touches and those high touch activities that dog our industry historically. And that's all about a journey. It's about a journey that we can get to a predictive, intent-based future. The first step is to bring on partners and the applications to work with us on that journey. Deepomatic is absolutely a key partner in that space. It's enabling us to embed this continuous improvement, learn from what we're seeing, get better, take feedback, get better. It's a proactive framework of operation that allows us to move forward. It ensures that we can look at capacity to make sure it's always in place when our customers need to receive services. It could be triggering card installs, cables, runs and patches. And then we look at the life cycle, and Augustin mentioned this earlier. It's that maintenance piece that is ever more critically important. It's when the maintenance engineer is turning up to site, they're looking at the right data. They're being told the intelligence of the systems behind them, what looks right, what looks wrong, who went in there before them and moved something when they shouldn't have. Little things like that make a huge difference to the customer experience. And that's where it starts to all come together for us. And the work that we've been doing over the last 6 to 12 months with Deepomatic has been about building these use cases and introducing them into our business. And we break our business into 3 areas: inside plant, outside plant, and custom premises. The inside plant is in our micro-edge data centers. The outside plant goes from the ODS in those data centers to outside the customer prem, generally the Toby or the aerial pole. And then the customer site could be single dwelling units or multi-dwelling units. A whole variety of scenarios. And our aim was to, for this first phase, to focus on the inside plant. One, because we have really strong records for the past 5 years on every single patch we put in, but also because it's about culturally getting people to accept automation tools and insightful tools, because there's a fear factor. So this is about people. This is about empowering people with new tools to enabling them to work better. And once we get that passion through the business and work with our partners, we can be better as an organization. Now, as we've done this, scaled the fact that we have to scale our data lifecycle inventory. All those photographs, we have tens of thousands of photographs every month we need to process. We need to evaluate those and process those in real time. We need to derive end-to-end connectivity between these sites to support our service operations group in that service journey for the first customer turn-up. And we need to develop the data models that allow us to expand outwards from the inside plant through the primary nodes, secondary nodes, and Toby boxes into that data lake of history, that life cycle of the infrastructure library. And we focused on these practical field applications with our current working practices. We don't want to change the business too much that people reject the adoption of new technology. We want to empower them to accept new technology and then make the recommendations how we are going to use it in the future at scale. We also, quite frankly, had to face into day one problems. One thing we didn't think about was our micro-edge data centers. They're basically like Faraday cages. You go in there with a mobile phone, you don't get much of a signal. So we had to face into, can we have offline tools? And can we have a Wi-Fi, secured Wi-Fi within these facilities? You know what? Those experiences will inform us when we go to more rural areas where we definitely won't necessarily get data coverage. And working with Deepomatic, we faced into those challenges to make them opportunities. And the use case we picked is one that we live every day. It's a particular work order. It drives the vast majority of my team's physical layer infrastructure. It goes from an optical distribution frame where the incoming plant is terminated. These tend to be about 2,000 fiber cable frames, and they have cassettes in them. And it's connecting those cables from the incoming plant all the way through to the optical line termination equipment in the rack through hydro cables. So we have a look at all of the cassettes and make sure they're correctly labeled. People are working on the right one. Always a good check. Making sure that the cables are in the right locations, that they are positioned with head shells on when they start. They're ready to go. Nobody's been moving things around. We check the fibers. We check the power meters. And that data in itself is very useful because we port that into another set of databases that look at the life cycle of the optical losses between the OLTs and the ONTs. And it gives us a whole set of information so we can double check if everything's going to the right place, and also do we see degradation over time because we've got multiple measure points. Again, it goes into that life cycle management. We look at the cassette after patching. They put it in the right place. They haven't moved anything else. And it flags it to them on the ground, so they don't need to go back. Exactly to Augustin's point earlier. And then we terminate it in the OLTs, and we check the life cycle of cards. We've got the right cards in the right slots, or we're recording the right things. And how does this eventually tie into our inventory management system to check the records of the inventory management system that the cards are in the right place, they're at the right height in the racks, informing the next engineer when they go to site they've got the right length of cables, they've got the right labels to go on things, etc., etc. It's all about making this service chain ever more efficient and ever more effective. And quite frankly, at the moment, this is making a material difference to those field engineers we've got on the ground who have adopted this with a passion that we actually were fearful that wouldn't be accepted, but it has been, and has made my network quality assurance groups able to focus on other areas of our business and for the next stage of development as we move into the ODF through to the primary node, to the secondary node, to shared assets, and then eventually onto SDUs and MDUs to support our customer installs in Cran. It's been a fantastic 6 months. So I'd like to personally thank the Deepomatic team for their, frankly, passion and their commitment over that time. Thank you, Augustin.
Thank you very much, David.
All right, so I guess this is concluding your section, David, which brings us to the Q&A. And I will kick off with a very technical and precise question to Augustin, I guess. You showed us some pictures of field intervention. And one question is from Yolan, are all photos geo-referenced?
Not all of them. It depends on the choice of the customer. Often we have the geolocation of the picture, and it is used to reconcile the information of the ID of the street equipment to make sure that, for example, the field technician is indeed working on the right equipment that it is supposed to be. But it really depends, because sometimes you can use it even without those information and it's still valuable. I would say that the more we share together information, the more we can verify, double check, and make sure that, for instance, we are working on the right type of equipment.
Okay. Maybe another question to David. David, you mentioned the evolution of the UK market. I would say the FTTH operator landscape is changing on a daily basis and will certainly mature even further in the next 4 to 5 years. How are those artificial intelligence tools critical for you to build your competitive advantage and the overall strategy of CityFibre? Could you just maybe come back to that from a strategy level for a company?
So from a strategic perspective, one of the things that I think we need to do is always drive examples of strong use cases that hopefully other alternate carriers will learn from and adopt to increase the quality of their records. And equally, quite frankly, if there are alternate carriers out there and we see something we like, we'll talk to them to improve it, because every single one of us strategically needs to be pushing for quality-led fibre networks. If you have built a poor quality fibre network, it's of no interest to us. It costs more to integrate. It provides a worse service over the long term. And I think if we looked back at the lessons learned in the cable co days in the UK in the 1990s, I think it weighs on the ability for consolidation in the market, which will eventually come, because it's just too difficult to sometimes integrate poor quality networks. If you really care about, passionate about your customer experience over the short, medium, and long term, we've got to get standardized approaches to data quality, record keeping into a consistent manner. So strategically, if you're an alternate carrier out there and your data quality is poor, then I think you're in a very difficult position to win market share.
Okay, and Augustin, how far do you see? Well, I would say, how far in the network do you see possibilities of further application for your solutions? You've presented the solution for specific application. Do you envisage to enlarge application? Do you see more opportunities in the field of FTTH and telecom in general?
Yes, so a basic rule to understand where those visual automation apply is to understand that now the technology can understand a picture as well as a human. So if you see something on the picture, you can analyze it. And which means that our part of our mission, and our mission is to make sure that this is not an area of concern for our customers. And the real job that we have to do all together is to define where you want to apply the technology, for which use case, and how to minimize the number of pictures that are necessary to capture the information that you want to get. Because you want to facilitate the job of the people in the field. And sometimes we find companies that are really impressive because they are willing to embrace innovation. And it's my turn to give a big thank you to David, because he was really a true innovator in the way they wanted, and they understood immediately what would be possible with this technology. And together we have a plan to deploy it on the entire network, from the central office to the SDUs and on the entire network. We are deploying it in field services as a company, Deepomatic. So we can definitely work on antennas, radio, smart meters. The truth is that today we really concentrate on the telecom industry because our customers have important benefits in the use of the technology, and because we really want to build something very strong for this specific industry.
Clear. And I also, when we prepared the discussion, David, David and Augustin, you mentioned to me that there are still on the market some level of doubts or maybe lack of knowledge, or sometimes even cynicism about artificial intelligence, people doubting that it is actually for real now and that it can bring concrete benefits. Obviously, you are proving the contrary, but what would be the key factor you would highlight to our audience to make them understand that it is potentially for them as well?
So telecoms has been dogged by applications that we do all big fanfares about and actually don't get adopted by workforces. But we have an opportunity here. I think as an industry, we're more aware of data quality. And by focusing on the teams who get to use the tool and empowering them to use the tool for better effect. Now, it could be related to the fact that if we support them to complete their tasks in an effective manner, they're still getting paid for the same amount, but they don't need to come back. So it's a immediate cash reward for them. Equally, it's about feeling like you've done a good job. We're creating a foundation of fibre in the UK, which is going to be here for the next 40, 50 plus years. And everyone as part of the CityFibre team believes in that goal. And you're building something that will be here maybe after you've left this earth. And that means something to a lot of people. So if you can face into the adoption, we can break the history of problems of using tools and improving from tools. And the AI element is actually, it's really complex technically, but it's not the problem in front of us. The problem in front of us is always getting people to use tools effectively. But if we do that the right way, we show that it can enable them to do so much more, people embrace these type of capabilities.
This is definitely a kind of change management issue more than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree more. As a proof point, I would say that with our customers that have adopted the technology a few months ago in France, we are analyzing more than hundreds of thousands of interventions every month. So definitely this is something that is industrialized, technology speaking. And the real challenge is adoption. And I won't repeat what David said, but he got it perfectly right. how to make sure that it's also at the benefit of the worker on the field is something absolutely crucial. Yeah.
I also had one question related to the way you manage partnership, because there are different level of partner potentially involved. That there is, in this case, the provider of the solution, CityFibre, but CityFibre also work with contractors, so that there might be a cascade of people being involved in the value chain of fiber rollout or even fiber network maintenance. So how is that taken into account in your project, in your programs?
So again, it comes back to culture. One of the decisions we made several years ago was this is a long-term infrastructure build, and we want partners who we can trust and partners who trust us. And so we have built, because we're quality-led, we're price-conscious, but we're quality-led and we're service-led. So we have very open conversations and honest conversations with our partner community, and they do with us. And it's all about reaching the end goal. Now, the end goal may be 7 years from now, but we have to grow together. And sometimes we will have challenges and they will help us over that. And equally, sometimes our partners have challenges. We see that in the resource challenges we already have in the UK at the moment, we're finding the right skilled staff. But part of that is us working with them through tools like this to enable us to train and develop the new staff coming into the industry. So you've got to do it as, yes, it is multi-layered, but for us, it's got to be open. It's got to be an honest set of conversations within a fixed set of trusted partners. And hence why we spend a lot of time finding the right cultural fits for us, for our community.
I would say that it's really, to combine the two answers, it's a technology that is no mature and available for the industry, but for the benefits of all the stakeholders, because you can succeed the job the first time as a contractor because you know what to expect, because you have IT systems that are up to date and reflecting the reality, so you can prepare yourself better, you can get a little feedback and succeed on the field. As an ISP, you have a better network, customers that are more satisfied, less churn, your call centers are desaturated. If something goes wrong, you know why, and you can communicate with the final customer in a much more effective way. So it's really at the benefits of the ISPs, and obviously as a wholesaler, you can maintain a full high quality, full fiber network, high quality all over the life cycle of the project. So it's very different kind of benefits, but for the entire industry. Yeah.
I'm having another question here around pushing further the concept of automation, and I see the word auto routing of cable. Is it something we will ever we will ever be able to see, or what is your view on that? Can we push further the automation of our processes for fiber distribution and nodes and all the equipment in the
So to me, auto routing of cable is absolutely one of the outputs will eventually come from this. So when we look at our ODF frames, we've got 2,000 fibers going in. There is certain rule sets about how we should run cables and the way the right cable should curve, etc. So there is a natural extension that can come from this, which will say, okay, you've taken a picture. It's actually saying that, oh, this is quite a crowded cabinet. So based upon the predictive analysis of where we think the cables and how many cables are going to be added in time, then the optimum routing, based upon all this other data in the background, is munging together, is going, yep, you want to go through this route, that's within the guidance. And every so often, you know what, the cabinet's going to be full. It's been there for 15 years. And it's going to go, normally we wouldn't approve this, but now we're allowing you to do this exception route because the rest of the cabinet is so full. Okay, it's never going to be a perfect world, but if we can enable the engineer who's sitting there at 3 o'clock in the morning in front of a powered cabinet in the street with the rain coming down at them to feel that we've got their back, it will be a better industry for all of us.
Augustin, no comment on that?
No comments. You know, sometimes the customer knows how to apply the innovation even better than us, and it's normal. I mean, like, nothing to add.
Very good. I think I don't see any additional question coming through. I would like to take that opportunity to give you, each of you maybe 1 or 2 minutes of conclusion before we wrap it up, write this session up spot on time for everybody. So Augustin, you want to start?
Yes, with pleasure. I think we covered a lot of topics during the question and answer session. I just wanted to outline, because I had some question about the technology, about how to apply, about how to balance the benefits between the different stakeholders. I think this is really something that will benefit the entire industry. As said David, we have a passion for that. We want to bring light. We want to define the next generation of softwares, allowing a good management of field operations for the benefit of all the stakeholders. So definitely, if I had one short sentence, is like, don't be afraid, let's talk, let's exchange, in order to understand how it can be applied for the benefits of every single company or institution.
Yeah. And for me, I think I sum it up, which is we're at the tip of an iceberg. The potential of these type of approaches mixed in with all of the developments on large data lakes of information we're getting back from the live networks, gives us such a range of opportunity to change the way we work and optimize and support great customer experience. There are things we haven't even thought about now that 5 years from now will start to become the norm. And if we go into it knowing that we need to stretch, accept that sometimes it's not going to work, we will achieve so much more than always just going, well, it's got to be this specific use case for this one niche case, and we only do it without that vision. So tip of an iceberg, we've got to have vision, we've got to have passion, and we've got to try things. You know what? And sometimes it will fail, but it will mainly work.
Well, thank you, David. And on this very optimistic note, I would like to thank our audience. A great thank to Augustin and David. This is typically the type of subject that all the stakeholders of the industry are going to discuss at the next FTTH conference taking place in Vienna at the end of May. So I will definitely encourage you to register and join you there. I'm sure you will have the possibility and the honor to meet face-to-face with Augustin and David at that occasion. So please check on the website for any information on the conference. Thanks again for your participation. And well, I'll give you maybe 30 seconds back of your time before meeting you on the next webinar series. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.